Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're doing well wherever you are. I'm going to rant a little bit in this video. I just had some thoughts I wanted to share with you guys. I'm sure you guys all heard the news of Richard Branson flying to space in his own spaceship and this big race between the billionaires to create commercialized space travel. So we have people like Elon Musk who are lecturing us on stuff like the energy consumption of something like Bitcoin, but yet they're spending countless amounts of energy on trying to fly people to space for something to do, and these guys are always virtue signaling, saying they're trying to do the best thing for humanity and trying to save the planet and all this. But you know how many resources it takes to fly to space, how many rockets people like Musk blew up, how many resources went to that, how much fuel it takes, how much money, how much time, all of these things, just to be able to fly these billionaires to space for something to do because they're so bored and they can't find a way to just find contentment in their own lives. They have to actually fly to space to get their badge of honor and to be able to boast that they have so much money that they can do something like this. So this is the irony of the times we live in. We have the billionaires like Elon Musk lecturing us on the energy consumption of something like Bitcoin that actually offers a solution to the poor and middle class as a way to actually be able to get ahead. And then we have people like Musk who actually survive off of tax money through subsidies, and basically they're making all of their money off of selling carbon credits. So Tesla Motors itself has never even made a profit. They are in the business of carbon credits, and all of that money comes through government subsidies. So basically, they are living off of the government. It's a form of socialism. It's socialism for the rich and capitalism for the poor. And then these people have the nerve to try and lecture us on the energy consumption of something like Bitcoin that actually offers a solution to billions of people in the world that for the first time can have access to banking and for the first time can own a medium of exchange that actually can increase and hold value. So he's busy telling his followers to buy stuff like Dogecoin, which is a complete joke. There's absolutely no value in Dogecoin. And, for him, it doesn't matter. They're basically living off of endless government subsidies, so there's no risk for them. They borrow money at 0% interest, and they can buy whatever they want, invest in whatever they want. But you and I, if we go to borrow money, we pay a much higher rate, and we also have the risk of bankruptcy where companies like that will just be bailed out by the governments. So I just find it ironic that, they're lecturing us on what is a good use of energy and what is a waste of energy, what's inefficient. But meanwhile, they're spending so much energy just trying to fly these billionaires to space. It's just totally ironic and just really in your face, just trying to boast on what an accomplishment this is, while most of us just get pushed further and further into poverty through the fiat regime, through this endless money printing and debt creation, and basically enslaving the masses via debt and these government lockdowns where they're forcing small businesses to close their doors and all of that, while the big corporate chains remain open and rake in record profits. So it's really a double standard. It's interest rate apartheid where the ultra rich borrow pretty much for free or very low interest rates, but you and I pay a much higher rate if they'll even lend to us. So we have seen a tightening on credit for just your average consumer in the last while. We've seen some of the big banks starting to close their line of credits and stuff like that. So this is how it goes. It's a double standard. The rich live by a set of rules and we live by a set of rules. And something like Bitcoin really does change the game. It's a form of money that the governments can't just come and print out of thin air and manipulate its value via interest rates and money printing and all of the different ways that they can control the value of that currency. and really keep us enslaved by having the masses continue to work for these dollars. However, the dollars are just continually being debased and losing their value. And that's why basically the newer generations can't even afford a house. People think it's because the value of these homes are going up, but in reality, it's the value of these dollars that continue to fall because of the inflation and the money printing. And so the value of these dollars is completely at the mercy of the governments. And this is why Bitcoin's monetary policy is absolutely superb, and will it offers many solutions to so many of the world's problems. And basically, a lot of people haven't really woken up to the solutions that are offered by Bitcoin. And so I think over the coming years, more and more people will wake up. And if the governments continue to print the money into the ground, people really won't have a choice. Either you're going to lose everything, like Venezuela and some of these other places. Lebanon now is in crisis. Or you wake up and you get out of the currencies and you basically learn how to hold something like Bitcoin that offers an alternative. So, this is why the rich and the governments don't want you waking up to Bitcoin. This is why there's so much misinformation out there. Stuff like them trying to tell us that it's, I've heard all kinds of stuff. Either it's the energy usage narrative that it's using too much energy, when in fact it uses 1/5 of the energy that the current monetary system uses. So it's 5 times as efficient there. And it is the greenest, it has the most amount of sustainable energy out of any industry in the world. It has 54% of its energy use comes from renewable energy. So it actually is the greenest. Um, it uses the most renewable energy out of any industry. So there's a lot of misinformation out there, and they're trying to scare people away from it. What are some of the other ones they say? They also try and convince you that it's a deep state thing, and they're trying to, get you into this new world reserve currency, that it's funded by the deep state and it's all controlled and manipulated and tracked and all of that. And sure, there's some truth to that. It is highly traceable. If you don't know what you're doing and you have a need for privacy, Bitcoin might not be the best use. But there is alternatives to Bitcoin if you're really in need of something that's completely private. However, there is a fair amount of privacy if you're using something like the Lightning Network, which is now being developed and adopted by many. So I think all of that is to come on Bitcoin still. And the one thing we know for sure that is that the US dollar is the number one currency, the number one way that people transact illegally in the black market for extortion, child trafficking, all of that stuff. All of that is done in the US dollar. So this thing that Bitcoin is, primarily used for black market is a false narrative. Again, people have looked very closely at this, and in reality, less than 1% of the Bitcoin transactions are estimated to be used for black market or legal purposes. And the US dollar has been the go-to. 99% of the legal activity that takes place is done in transactions in the US dollar. So that's the reality. So much misinformation out there trying to persuade you to stay away from Bitcoin because they want to keep you poor. They want to keep you enslaved. They want you using a dollar that is centrally controlled, that they can manipulate the price of, that will keep you enslaved. They don't want a decentralized currency with such an amazing monetary policy that is disinflationary, that actually increases in value as time goes forward. So this is the reality of this is it's a saving technology, that if you're holding your wealth in this technology, things actually get cheaper over time. And forever, these corrupt economists try and make you believe that that isn't a possible thing. They make you believe that inflation is unnecessary, that we always have to have inflation. And that just isn't the case. So I really encourage you guys to dig deeper, go below the surface, and do your own research, and really ask yourself, what is the motivation behind some of these billionaires when they're trying to tell you stuff like Bitcoin uses too much energy and it isn't an efficient use of energy. Meanwhile, they're flying to space just for something to do. And even the narrative of these electric vehicles being such a green thing. Well, the reality is most of the energy going into the grid is still from coal, nuclear. Even though I think nuclear isn't as bad as people think it is, but that's a different topic. But a lot of it is coal, which is very dirty energy. And often they don't talk about the energy that goes into creating these batteries, which aren't recyclable and can catch fire and need to be replaced every 10 years and that kind of stuff. And not to mention the electronics that go into these cars. So in about 10 years, I've worked on many electronics and they don't last very long. About 10 to 15 years in, most of the components start to fail. And it's not like the old thing where you could just replace one little part. If one little component goes, one little capacitor or resistor goes in the board, the whole thing needs to be replaced, which is a ton of money. There's supply chain interruptions, so you might not be able to get the part. And then even if all that goes well, then you need to find a mechanic that can actually work on these things, and not to mention what kind of a price you might pay for these mechanics. So there's just so much misinformation, and they're pushing us all to these electric vehicles, trying to tell us that they're a really green alternative, but so much energy goes into it. Most of this stuff can't be properly recycled. And think of how much energy goes into all new infrastructure, creating brand new vehicles instead of just fixing the ones we already have and keeping those ones going. But no, they in Canada they're going to outlaw gas vehicle production and sales by 2030 is the target. So then basically, if you're not wealthy enough to afford an electric vehicle, you're going to be stuck taking the bus and walking or cycling. And that's just the way they want it. It's basically, if you're not super wealthy, you're going to be at the mercy of all these regulations that are under the guise of sustainability or whatever the narrative is of the day. And they just continue to erode our liberties and our freedoms and the ways that we like to get around in our life and save money. They want to control that and keep us enslaved. So I hope that kind of gives you a perspective on what is actually going on. That's my opinion anyways. Please let me know in the comments what you guys think. If you stuck around till the end, I really appreciate that. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.